Good day, good day, good day, collective. Here we are for another read, another collective read. I hope everybody's alive and well. Another beautiful day in paradise. So, Holy Spirit, Holy Ancestors, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, collective. We ask the Holy Spirit to keep us protected during this reading for myself and the collective. And during the reading and beyond, no weapon formed against us will prosper. All negative energy projections will be returned to sender or dissolved into the ether, deemed ineffective, or as the Holy Spirit sees fit. Thank you. Yeah, let's just get into it and see what comes up. I'm drinking my kombucha. This is pretty good for gut health. This is a blood orange one. I used to make it myself. You know, you get the SCOBY and then you make it. But yeah, I want to be able to try and do that again. Yeah, life cultures, you know. It's so nice and cold. It's quite hot out there today. I've been out in the garden doing weeding and whatnot, and I've tried to clean my fingernails, but you know what it's like when you're out there in the dirt. So let's see if we can get a reading here. We're going to use Lenormand Oracle. This one, I often use this one for like historical readings, but we'll see what comes out today. I've been having some discussions today with another person that stays here on some historical issues, things, but we'll just see what comes out. We're not going to preconceive anything. So Holy Spirit, Holy Ancestors, what do we need to know today? What is important for the collective to know at this time? Please and thank you. What does the collective need to know at this time? We have, yeah, this looks like it could be a Knight or a Duke of Cups. 2828, which is 1010. So we have a Duke. Which is like a Knight of Cups, right? So somebody might be making an offer to somebody that might have some sort of stature. This person could be, this could be a Freemason. I'm just focusing, I'm seeing, see the checkered floor there? That's a symbol of Freemasonry. So this could be something to do with a Freemason, or somebody might be looking at the collective and wanting to make some sort of offer. Or somebody is studying somebody here in the collective. Okay. Somebody's thinking about something. Is it Freemasonry? I haven't been loud enough. Okay. Six of Swords. The Six of Swords. Moving to calmer waters. Now, I'm pretty sure this came out in reverse. Somebody not moving on. No, it's in the upright. We've got the Six of Swords. We've got this castle, right? 1919, that's 2020. Or something could have happened in 2020. Something could have gone down in 2020. And with the 6, it could be 26. Which could break down to an 8, which is eternity. Something going on for a very long time. Something, yeah, this is historic. Something's going on for a very long time. 6 of Swords, moving on to calmer waters. So something's been going on for a very long time. And it's giving me, like, with this castle here, it's like giving me some sort of ancient times. Or, you know, like with Freemasonry, I don't know how long, I think that goes back to, does it go back to Egypt? I don't know. Or does it go back to 1700? I don't know how far back it goes. Oh, it goes back to the Templars, right? The Knights Templars. So they would be going back to Egypt, right? Moving to calmer waters. So this could be a Freemason here. Could be a Templar. What is this about, Spirit? The Nine of Pentacles could be sovereignty, the end of some sort of sovereignty. We've got 8, eternity, again, 88. The 8th of the 8th could be significance, the 8-8 portal, some sort of ending, or the ending of sovereignty, the ending of independence. Okay, independence, the ending of independence. So this is, well, going back with the Knights Templars, this is going back to like the very first like banking system, right? Yeah, wow, this is interesting. Got a King of Cups at the bottom of the deck, 34, 34. Something going back, this goes back a very long time. So the very first banking systems was the Knights Templars. The Knights Templars were knights that were put to guard the pilgrims going to Milan, or from Milan to, I don't know, Spain, is it? You know, there was these pilgrims, and I think they followed the Silk Road? I'm not sure. Anyway, that was the beginning of the Knights Templars. So they were put there to guard, and they looked after the money of the pilgrims, because there was a lot of bandits and robbers and whatnot. So the knights were put there to protect the pilgrims. And then it became, they were demonized, and by, what's the name of that Pope? Damn, I freaking can't remember. The one that implemented the one that implemented what do you call it, when we started killing all the witches and shit, like killing all the people that were actually spiritual. They were there first to protect them, and then they got corrupted because they were demonized and taken over because of the money that they acquired by looking after the pilgrims, right, which were spiritual people, spiritual leaders, and then they were labelled as what's wrong with my mind? Come on, Spirit, come through, come through, come through. Heretics, right? Labelled heretics. So they were sacrificed and taken over because the Knights Templars were becoming more wealthy with their business in taking care of the spiritual people's money to protect them from the bandits. the church, so it was the Roman Catholic Church, and I still can't remember the name of the Pope, but he implemented the, what is it when they started killing the, please comment in the comments, when they started killing all the heretics, what was it called? And they killed and tortured a lot of the Knights, the original Knights Templars. And then they put their own Templars in place, but they were corrupted, but that's where the banking system started. And that's what they wanted, that money. Figure now, I can't remember. But the original Knights Templars were actually noblemen. They were actually, you know, like on the right side of God, you know. But anyway, if you know, you know, right? You know the history. Go and look it up. When they were torturing them and everything, and they turned on the Knights Templars for being heretics. Anyway, it's just not coming to me. If it comes to me through the read, then good, right? So anyway, this is what I'm getting here. So this is going back a long time, and this is the beginning of the loss of sovereignty, to be able to, you know, hunt in your own place and, you know, in your own country, you know, be free as an Indigenous person in any. See, we're not just Indigenous in like colonial countries. We were Indigenous all across Europe originally, but this began with this, with the Knights Templars, with the banking system, and you know, the wealth being accumulated by because they were more like, when the Catholic Church took over the Knights Templars, they became more like the bandits, you know what I mean? And they started taxing the travellers, the pilgrims' money. So they would tax money to look after them, you know, like, what do you call it? Like, what do you call it when, you know, gangs would, you know, get a cut to be looked after? Like, people had to pay to have a business and have protection money, you know? What do they call that? And here we have an overseer. We've got 1111, and this is this energy here is the same energy, you know, that not the original Knight Templars, but the one that corrupted it. The after the church took it over, the freaking and the court, you know, they tortured them for being heretics and everything. I still can't think of it. Anyway, I don't want to get stuck on that because I'm going to sit there thinking about it all day. Six of Cups, this is the past, right? 16, 16, 7, 7. 7, 7 is 14, which is a 5, bringing change. So this is where the change happened. This is what we're talking about here. Wow. Spirit, wow. So this is when, you know, the systems were put in place, and it come with the Roman Catholic Church. And I think it started with Constantine, didn't it? Oh, was it Constantine? Who created Christianity in the first place. And created Constantinople, right? And it all came out of there. I still can't think of it. One more here, please, Spirit, and then we'll get into it. I'm pulling the tarot on this story. I don't know why this is coming out, but it's coming out, right? King of Pentacles, about money, right? It's all about accumulating the money. So at that same time, they started to dam the rivers and stuff like that, like, you know, in Venice and places like that, they dammed the rivers, and then the people, we started to get the, what do they call them? The fringe dwellers. So this was in Europe as well. So it's not just here, like in those colonial towns where we had the fringe dwellers, the indigenous people who became fringe dwellers because they were cut off from their resources, which was the water, because they dammed the rivers and made it inaccessible to hunt and all that kind of stuff, right? So they started to control the resources with the rivers first, and then made it inaccessible for people to just freely go and fish out of the rivers, because the authorities and the kings, it's the kings, right? I can't go into the whole freaking history of everything, we'll be here forever, right? So, like when they cut people off and they would, tax people or lock people up for stealing from the kings, right? Taking their own resources, which is on their land, being indigenous people. But when the kings were created, they took ownership of the resources. So, and this is where the loss of the sovereignty is. I mean, it goes back further than that too, right? But I'm starting somewhere here. So we have a King of Pentacles, and this is what this is about, the resources. And I was talking about the fish, and then it just travelled, the same power travelled all over the globe to make the colonials. It grew and grew and grew with the banking systems taking over the whole world, travelling in their ships and colonising all the nations and securing all the resources. And this is this false ownership, like creating a false narrative that people were heretics and for living their own shamanic ways, like the way that they worked with the land and manifested with shamanic type manifestations. Now, these the churches knew about this magic and that is how they disempowered everyone by all the indigenous nations. The first thing you do is take away their belief system so that they can control the narrative, right? And deem the natural law and way of living with in God's spirit, living harmoniously with the land in your own space, and not encroaching and taking from all others. So that was that power struggle for the resources, right? But it's not just isolated in the colonial nations. It goes further, all the way through Europe, you know what I mean? Like right back. So indigenous people we had all over the globe, not just in the colonial times of the 19th century, but like there was the colonies, it goes back like with Rome and the Germanians, when they were fighting. The Germanians were the wild people in Europe, in North Europe, who still lived harmoniously with the land, and they hunted and they lived in humpies, in non-permanent type situations, and they moved with the weather, right? Hunting and living off the land harmoniously. I mean, even Genghis Khan, he was fighting the Chinese for like the nomadic nomadic way of life, of living off of the land and hunting and gathering and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why this is coming up, but it is. Because we're talking about now about the sovereignty, and this is what everyone's fighting about, and like people fighting about immigration and all that kind of thing. When when immigrants have been moved around and slaves have been moved around the world since way back, right? But constantly fighting about the resources and who owns what and who belongs where. Well, we all got shifted around, and it's nobody's, we have to live now, in the now, but now the media is winding people up, and this is a divide and conquer tactic that has gone back all these millennia, dividing and conquering, and people claiming ground to live in a certain way. But what we're really fighting for is the natural law. Like the rest of it all, it kind of doesn't matter now who is where in what country and whether your ancestry comes from that country or not, because we're all being shifted around with no no control ourselves as to those decisions. They were made by forefathers and whatnot, so it's not something that we can practically turn around and say, well, you belong here and you belong there, because some of us have got ancestry from a multitude of different nations. So where is that person actually belongs? I mean, that's the first, all the slaves and the people that were like multicultural places go back to Syria, Mesopotamia, and the multiculturalism was happening there, and who was the slaves and who was not, and it just keeps going from one to the other and moving backwards and forwards. But it's time for us to go, okay, we're all here where we are. Now how do we work with what we've got and where we are? And how do we work with each other harmoniously? But we also know that people have been put in place in our colonial countries now. There is a tactic going on where they are using major overpopulated countries to move in on colonial lands to be another what do you call it? Another empire shift? I don't know how to say it, but something like that. Like it's like another shift in. But at the end of the day, it reigns back to the privileged elites, the kings and the queens of colonial, well, going back by how long? Millennia. Going back to the Anunnaki. Enoch. But where are we going with this, Spirit? Please make this clear. Like, why are we here with this discussion at the moment? So, okay, so let's leave that there and throw some tarot on here and why we're discussing this right now. Seven of Cups, the illusions, the illusions of the past. This is the change. This is the acknowledgement of what those illusions are. And the whole narrative now, what we need to look at is natural law, or the introduced constitutions. There's natural law, God's law, and then we have constitutions within nations, different constitutions for different nations. But if we look at it, does it all go back to like Constantine with those with the rules? I mean, we go back to Egypt and we got God's commandments. That comes under natural law, though. You know, it's what comes after that. Okay, Spirit. Like, please make this a clear message, concise message, honest message. Well, it's always going to be that. So, who's this? It comes down to whose rights is it to take up all the resources? You know, like these elite families that who's a Queen of Pentacles, somebody's not made a decision about something. Clarify this Queen of Pentacles. This is a fight for sovereignty, our right to be free. We have a Knight of Cups, so there could be a fake offer, and the Wheel of Fortune here. Fake love. Juggling injustice. Forcing people to juggle with fake love. Forcing people to juggle the Wheel of Fortune. Natural law. And the introduced constitutions. Human rights. We have a Knight of Cups in reverse, and then we have this Knight of Pentacles. A High Priestess at the bottom of the deck, alongside the Devil, with a King of Cups in reverse. The chart. Solid foundation. A fake offer. And I'm getting the Knights Templar again with the Wheel of Fortune. Six of Swords. Moving to calmer waters. We have that's too many, Spirit. Moving to calmer waters. There was a burden here with the Ten of Wands. There was a lot of slaughter. King of Swords. Weak. Emperor in reverse, and a King of Pentacles. Tower. The Tower in the establishment. I still can't think of that name. Five of Swords. The Tower in reverse, the Emperor in reverse, and then you've got the King of Pentacles. It was a fight. I'm not sure where this is going, like, Spirit, why we got this, but we've got the Ten of Swords. The Tower, the Emperor in reverse, the King of Pentacles, the Weak with the Strength in reverse. And then the integrity of this King of Swords, or the strength of, I still can't think of the damn name, the Inquisition, that's it. The Inquisition is what I'm trying to, that's what I was trying to think of, and that's what this is giving me. And this was an emperor in reverse who was the Pope. I can't remember his name. Did a lot of death magic, a lot of torture, accusing people of being heretics and witches and all that stuff. And they murdered a lot of people to gain the control of the resources, the money, the banking system, taking taxes, all that, for people just to survive. And now, you know, like the way it's going now with the controlling of the water and all that sort of stuff, and people, and the food with the genetically modified food, so that they have to actually buy the seeds, you know, and the way that's gone in Africa, and people that are all on about, yeah, okay, let's introduce genetically modified food so that we can feed all the starving nations, but it actually was to control the nations, and then they can just cut their food off at any time, because all those farmers and whatnot have to buy their seed all the time, because the seed has become unviable to reproduce like in just a natural way. And, you know, like Monsanto and whatnot, that's what they introduced. I mean, that was just an extension of what they did by, you know, like controlling the rivers and cutting fringe dwellers off and having to charge them taxes or whatever to be able to fish in their own rivers. You know, that sort of stuff. But it's still going on in the same way when they're genetically modifying the food so that we can't just, and you know, like in hybridizing the food, I mean, that came first, right? And that made seed unviable. You can only grow the seed once, and then the rest of the seed doesn't, it's sterile, right? Same goes for actual humanity itself, becoming sterile in the same way. Somebody was saying that there's not going to be enough people in China because they've used these methods to slow the population in China, and now they're not going to have enough people to keep the country happening because the old people are passing away and there's not enough younger generations. There's, you know, and you know, China produces like how much of our things. So with the whole of humanity being controlled by this system has brought us to sterilisation, basically, and dependency on the matrix, being dependent, because, and this has been the goal all along, was to make everybody dependent so they can control the population and take out as many people as necessary for their agenda of keeping the population at a specific level and to control the wealth, which is the resources. I mean, you can't eat money, right? So they control the water and the food. So somebody's not being left out in the cold here. We've got, so let's get this back down to a now level. Somebody's, they've got the Ten of Swords here. We've got the Five of Pentacles in reverse. The wish fulfillment in reverse with the Nine of Pentacles. The Queen of Swords defenseless. So this is leaving people defenseless by making them dependent on the system, because then they can just be taken out at any time. You know, they can just cut the food off, cut the water off, and then, you know, that's it. They even cut the air off, you know. This is not, you know, there's more and more people that are actually understanding this now, you know, like this, how is this going to even keep going? How is this narrative that the Matrix has been spinning going to keep deceiving people to follow along with this agenda of nothingness, right? Isn't that what the devil is all about? You know, like the destruction, the nothingness. What was it in? So there was a movie. Like, I mean, there's always a movie about everything, right? But or a book. I think it was a Stephen King one where there was the Langoliers, and they were making the nothingness. I think the Never-Ending Story was something similar, wasn't it? Where the goal was the destruction, the nothingness. So the out of whack. So the over. How do I word this? The agenda to create more dark matter than light. So the dark matter is the space between light, right? So there should be a balance of light and dark, right? So matter and antimatter. So with an imbalance of antimatter, it destroys life. So it's about more destruction of life, you know, like, because God said, you know, like, move forward and be fruitful, right? To produce, reproduce and reproduce with natural law. But, I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole freaking Adam and Eve story and everything, but, you know, the devil's always been about the destruction and the imbalance of antimatter and matter. So the more negative energy, which is the antimatter, is created so that there's less light, so the light gets taken out, so the more destruction, the life, you know, this is the balance between life and death, right? The matter and the antimatter, light and dark. This is heavy. So, which side of the agenda are you? You know what I mean? Are you in the destructive forces, which is the Matrix, because it's about this sucking up and the degradation of matter or life, and creating that more death than life? You know, see how that the balance is, losing the balance of life and death. So there'd be more death than life. That's the fight. Is there life, and that comes with like the living life force, opposed to destruction and death. It's got to be both, of course, but the problem is that we've got these forces, the negative forces, that are creating an imbalance. with more dark matter than light matter. Yeah. Okay. So that's been the goal, right? The ending, the Four of Swords, the ending of love. But it's not happening because God's just too much. God is the creator. God asks us to go and, procreate and be fruitful. Create more life. Page of Wands in reverse and the Eight of Swords in reverse. Somebody's not stuck. Somebody's not stuck on loss here. Or somebody was, so this is sabotage, this is the killing. Just sort of straight like that. Moving to calmer waters after all this death and loss of the nine. Somebody's still not left out in the cold because of faith, right? Even though they had their guard down, we have an ending of an ending. Ending of the ending, and ending the ending. I'm just hearing, I don't know, ending of the ending. Ending the ending. That's funny. Nine of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles and the 8-8 portal I have. The past, nostalgia. So there's no longer nostalgia of the past, I'm getting. So the nostalgia of the past is like being a follower of the agenda. We have a tower, a full-on tower here with the sabotage. The High Priestess and the Devil. The Death. Ending independence. This was an ending of independence in sovereign natural law. This is to end natural law and be dependent on the devil, right? There's the sabotage. The followers of the darkness are following the nothingness. The nothingness. And the system is trying to make people nostalgic about that. It's a bit like, following along with the narrative and be nostalgic about the past. People are not buying it anymore. They're becoming, I was going to say expatriates, but it's not that. They're not following the narrative anymore, which is the ending. They're not nostalgic about the past anymore. They're wanting, through this last 8-8 portal, there is an opening here for people to become sovereign, to become under the banner, I suppose, I don't like putting labels on anything, but under the banner of natural law, which is God's law, right? It's just like, that's the Garden of Eden, right? God provides everything. If one is has faith, actual real faith, God provides at the blink of an eye. This is how we become sovereign. We have to have faith to be able to step outside of the matrix, of the nothingness, of the narrative that has caused destruction, and step back into the Garden of Eden. Because God provides for those who have faith. You know, it's true. That's how I got here. I got here where I am in this, you know, like, because I lost everything and I just followed and I had faith and God provided everything I needed and still does. I mean, I even asked for a dog and I got one. Just like that. I asked for a place to work. I asked for where can I grow? Where can I produce? Where can I be productive? And I was given a place to be productive. Yeah, because of faith. A place to be alive and independent. Here's a message. We have a messenger, and to become the messenger, right? The witness, because this is we're bearing witness to oneself, bearing witness to God's power. Like, He's all-powerful. He can give you anything. He can do, as long as you're on the right side of natural law. You can't be out here being destructive and expect God to actually provide for you when you're on the wrong side of natural law, which is the matrix, because that's a destructive nature. Well, it's not nature. It's working towards the antimatter. I mean, that's what the collider thing was all about. You know, breaking the atom. That's, you know, the atoms come together, magnetize together to create matter, right? And they're talking about breaking the atom, boom, with the Hadron Collider up in Switzerland that goes across like 3-4 countries or something, that big thing, and, you know, they're smashing the atoms to try and break the atom. Like, what for? A lot of people say, a lot of religious movements and whatnot say about that it's actually opening a portal up to let in more destructive energies on this realm, on this plane, because there's many, right? On this plane, I'm hearing. And demonic energies are being allowed in with the breaking of the atom, the splitting of the atom. It's like splitting natural law, like to create more antimatter and demonic energies which are conducive to more nothingness, which is death, right? So if you're living your life as like a spiritual vampire, like say if you're living your life, we have creatives in the world, right? Those that can produce and create their own energy to be sovereign, you know, like create their own food or grow food or create their own things that they can sell to get money to buy things from other people, that kind of thing. And then there's others that will do anything to take from those people who actually are the creatives, those that produce something. And there's these other energies that are spiritual vampires, this is what we call them, because they will suck the life out of and steal from and destroy those that give life to things, right? Give life to matter. They create, they produce. But these other energies, which has become more than, there's more of these like thieving energies, I'll put it like that, the spiritual vampires that take from those that produce. You understand? They don't know how to produce their own energy or their own matter, their own things, they don't know how to grow things or make things, you know? They just take from others. You see what I'm saying? So those energies are a negative energy. And the producers, those that produce life, are the matter. They're the positive energies. You have to have both. With life and death, all things that come to life must pass as well. Like it's a consistent cycle. But what's happening is that we've got more antimatter out of whack than matter. More dark energies than light energies. And so it's getting out of whack. With more and more dark energies, we will end up with nothing because it's got out of whack, you see. I hope I'm making sense. Clarify this page of wands, the message. The messages, the death, the sovereignty. Being programmed with the death narrative, like those creating the wars, the fighting, there's a lot of negative forces out there creating death. They'll come with a little cup, right? So we'll give you this, but what happens is it ends up being the anti, so we've got the moon, we've got the Queen of Cups in reverse, so this is not productive, this is the opposite, and then it becomes death. And then we've got the Lovers, and it's sterile, there's no procreation. It becomes sterile. That's the agenda of the Matrix. Sterilizing and creating more antimatter and less matter, less production. Page of Cups. I hope you're following. We have heartbreak, causing more heartbreak. More heartbreak is like more loss, like the more hearts are broken. So without love, the more hearts are broken. Broken hearts become destructive. They become bitter. They become less productive, and they become privileged. They become, they become, entitled is the word I was after. Over entitled because they've been taken from and had their hearts broken. They've been offered a little bit and then had their heart, and then more taken away. So they get a little bit, but more is taken away. This is what happens with the tax. And people get their heart broken and they get a heavy heart because everything becomes too hard, right? So then they become bitter, and so then they will start to become more empty and more inclined to take from those that are productive. You know, when you look at like Nazi Germany, for instance, and the Jews were productive, right? They had the businesses, they had the drive, they were the creators, and Hitler used the people that were struggling at the bottom, that, you know, had their broken people with their hearts broken to the point of no return, and they were easily manipulated because they didn't know how to get out of that themselves, because they become you know, like heavy on the system, because they can't create energy themselves. They couldn't create product or life to sustain themselves, because they've been stripped and heartbroken, stripped from natural law, stripped from their countries, their cultures, their families, their resources, natural resources like their rivers, their ability to, you know, gather or hunt for themselves even, you know. And this is what creates an empty heart. With heartbreak, we become more nothing, and then they become more inclined to be spiritual vampires and take from those that do still produce. You see how it gets out of whack, and we've got more people that can't produce. I mean, look at Australia, for instance. We've become a country where we don't produce anything, and now it's going to get worse. They're not going to be producing any livestock that's going to, you know, like the industries. We don't produce anything. We've been totally reliant on outsourcing. We don't create anything in this country, so it becomes empty. We have resources that have been sold for less than it's worth to other countries to produce. You see? Our own resources have been shipped out of the country for others to produce off of the resources in our own countries. It makes no sense. Whereas if we are productive in ourselves and create our own life, our own products, then we can sustain ourselves in our own space. But because it was taken away, right, going way back, like I was talking about earlier, then we've finally come to this state of nothingness, of no production. So then we become the spiritual vampire from those that do produce. See, and then in history, that's where, like, Hitler took advantage of that state, and, you know, during the 40s and 50s, to put an attack, because he's a dark force, right? He was a dark force, and he was possessed by the dark forces to take out those that produced, which were the Jews, right? They were the ones with the businesses and the factories and the way of producing. By taking them out, and this is in the agenda today still, right? It's the same agenda, is to, in the matrix, the same agenda is to, and this is global now, this is global agenda, is to create more antimatter and destroy life, which is God's life force, God. God's creations become antimatter, which is nothingness. It's a destructive force to create more nothing. And why? Why? To create this more longing. You know, this is the longing for. So this is like, you know, with the heartbreak, and the tiny offers, and keeping people, nostalgic about the past, because the past was misunderstood, right? It was manipulated, creates a sense of longing and wanting, and this is jealousy and with a broken heart, you mix these two together, you can create a very destructive force to produce more nothingness. But this is ended, the ending. This is the ending of life. The World card is the ending of a cycle. So, as things are, as they are, this is the agenda, this is where we're heading. So the only way that can change is if people are educated about the correct history, so that then they can become productive and on the right side of things, of life. The life force, God's life force, is natural law, working with nature as it is, and how God provides it. Wow. And then there shall be life. But here we've got an overseer. Yep, an overseer to destruction. See how he is equipped to break hearts with these whips and lashes and look at his angry face, you know. This person is an overseer put in place to breed more hatred towards those that have been productive, those that are light forces, those that are creators. This is a real hatred towards creators, those that work with God to create more energy, more life, grow things, make things, build things, you know. But that, now, when I say build things, there's a fine line, and this is how people have got deceived as to what is build and how much resources are used in that. So there's a fine line between creation as well. You see, because creation, if it's not balanced right, can be a destructive force on its own. If it's not in harmony with natural law. Wow, this is deep. Damn. Okay, clarify this overseer. Tempered. We have a tempered overseer. Wow, now that's good. This is Archangel Michael tempering the injustice that has been forced upon us in our world. Clarify the temples. The Queen of Cups, love. The Queen of Cups is love. So the destructive forces were put in place to bring hatred and jealousy, and, you know, like they worked to manifest hatred, right? But we've got judgment here to move to calmer waters, bringing love. So the Queen of Cups is the Mother Earth, the mother, loving, nurturing, caring, brings life, right? She produces the baby. She's the incubator, right? If the incubator is planted with a sterile seed that's full of hatred, there will be no life. So if people, like for instance, a state that we've got in, and this has been a tactic of the dark forces, right? If people are just like fucking, for instance, right, and they are not in pure relationships where they love and create babies out of love for one another, right? If, like, for instance, a baby is produced from, say, rape, then that baby, now, I'm not going to say like the physical sterile, because that's not it. It's sterile mind. It creates a sterile mind if a baby is produced with a hatred and resentment, any of the negative feelings that come with the production of that child. Any, you know, like, so if a baby is not created with love, you're creating more of the dark matter, the energies with no ability to be creators in their own right. They become sterile in their ways. Do you understand what I mean? This is full on. So we need love. That's what Jesus was all about, right? Bringing love into relationships, into procreation, produces more life and positive energy that is abundant and can create more with love. You can't, if you, like, say if you plant a plant, right, a seed, and this has been copious amounts of experiments in this way. If you yell and scream at that plant every day, it's going to wither and die. If a plant is nurtured, watered, loved, and even sung to in beautiful harmonious melody, right? It will grow and it will produce fruit. If a child is produced from resentment, hatred, and bitterness, then it doesn't become a positive fruit. It becomes like a sour fruit, tasteless fruit, a fruit without seed, a hybrid fruit, a genetically modified fruit. You see what I'm saying? I hope I'm being clear with this. This is the love in the alchemy. This is judgment. So what we produce, what we put out there, is what we receive, and this is what we're being judged for. So there's a celebration here, or this is overindulgence with the theft, moving to calmer waters here with this knowledge. There's the knowledge. What I'm saying here is the knowledge, and this is the higher power. Wow. Thank you, Spirit. Yeah, and this is what we're being judged for. So we're all being judged at this time for what we produce, you see? Have you produced a productive life force, energy, or a dark, negative, unproductive product? A product that does not produce seed is useless. It's creating more nothingness. So our hybrid plants that have been bred to, be larger fruits and all this shinier fruits or whatever they are, excuse my language, produce no seed. So you can't collect the seed and have more abundant seed within that plant. It might produce one little seed that is sterile, rather than a whole fruit packed full of seeds that can be then planted and grown 10 times more. This is 10 times abundant, you know what I mean? From one fruit we get how many more from that fertile fruit? And that produces more product, more life. But the way things are going with genetically modified things, and these greedy people that want everything for themselves, that have created Monsanto to kill all those extra seeds so that we have to keep buying from them, and then spray everything to death so everything around it dies, nothing else will survive, and then they're saying that this is producing sustainability. It's not. This is not sustainable. And now they're trying to actually, well, I have been doing this for a long time now, about 30 years, I think, where they're now, they're cloud seeding and producing either no rain, they can turn the rain off, and they can turn it on. They can make it storm, they can make it stop. How much control? This control is bringing us more death. To control life is bringing more death. Whereas if we have our faith with what God produces, how God produced things. See, this is the whole point of, the devil or Satan, who decided that he was going to produce better than God. That's what it's about. We've got natural law, or we've got satanic destruction. So clarify the King of Pentacles. We have the Hierophant. Which is this here is like the church that was put in place to start this process, which was the corruption of God's law, to go across the seas in the ships and spread the corrupt produce. Spreading, the ships came and they spread disease, they spread pestilence, all the things that we have to spray to death now, right? They were paid to go across the seas and infect all those that lived by natural law. These are catfish. Catfish is, that's a symbol of, a fake face, somebody wearing a mask. It is masked as a being of God. It was a mask, it was a catfish. It was to spread the law of nothingness. Satan's law, right? The law of nothingness. Is it the never-ending story? Or was it the Langoliers in Stephen King, where you could hear this noise in the background? It was like the nothingness was coming. Oh, I think Doctor Who did one like that too, where the nothingness was coming and all the stars were going out in the sky. Doctor Who's, touched on a really good examples of the narrative. As are hidden in plain sight, right? Imbalance. Creating the imbalance to the world, where it was perfectly balanced. And now it's become weak, and the people have become weak. This is what our sovereigntists are about, if they're on the right side of it. We have the sovereigntists have also been corrupted as well, spreading, like a lot of people that go on the big protests and whatnot are put in place to actually be destructive in their protest so that the sovereigntists can be deemed as the villains. They plant people in amongst groups to create a destructive actions to make the real sovereigntist, the real sovereign follower of God, God's law, God's natural law, to corrupt it and make it destructive and be violent and all that stuff. They're a corruption, the same as the church was corrupted. Right? The same as the Knights Templar were originally corrupted. Because they wanted to make the banking system, or the Knights Templar system, to hold the resources for the pilgrims to be safe from villains, negative energies, negative forces, were taken over by the negative forces and put in place. It was a deception, and then they created the idea of the heretic, being shamanic, being a corruption of God. So it was all flipped, right? You understand? So the sovereignty and the pentacles, the production was all flipped, and then non-productive. So here we have, the thief. This is taking away the seed and the independent growth. It was a theft. But people, if they don't, this is not walking away. This is celebrating. This is indulging in the theft. Those that are following this system are indulging in this theft. They have become part of the problem, which is the nothingness, the spiritual vampires, the actual energy vampires, those that steal from those that are productive by natural law, stealing the seed, stealing the earth, the ground, the water, the life force. And if one is to continue to follow this deception, we have a King of Swords and a King of Cups. The devil. The devil is an upright. So we have a King of Swords, which is the authorities. The kings, did I not say? The King of Cups. The addiction. To taking. Away from natural law, God's law. This is a theft from God himself. These are the spiritual vampires, the authorities here at levels. They are possessed and addicted to their own power. It's about their power. The devil wanted to be more powerful than God. So we've got a King of Cups and a King of Swords here, trying to be more powerful than God. I'm not sure why it's come out as the King of Swords and the King of Cups representing this. Because we've got emotional, which is the King of Cups, which is emotion, love, fatherly. And then we've got the intellectual with the King of Swords. A corruption of the intellect and the corruption of the father. Yeah, of the men. The intellect and the father. How long have we got? We've been going for a while. Clarify this King of Swords. Clarify the King of Swords. Clarify the King of Swords, please. I just heard the King of War. The conflict. The King of War with no love. Clarify the King of Cups. The Pentacles. The family. The material. Stuck with nothing coming in. Okay, so because that was the question I asked, was if it's a foolish act to follow the narrative as it is, or the matrix, or this narrative that has been on our planet for so long, to continue with that and not recognise the history, the story, the real story, right? Is going to keep us stuck and with nothing coming in. So it's the nothingness. Stuck with nothing. Because there'll be no production, because there'll be no seed. The God of war and the God of wealth, the gold, the money. I'm surprised it didn't come out as, like, because the love of money, this is the way it's come out, with the King of Cups. The King of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles. This is like the love of money, the love of material. And the King of War is about the love of money, the love of the material. And to celebrate the theft of the resources from the light workers, the producers, the artists, those that create, the creatives. And that could mean those that grow food, those that produce product, those that create their own energy rather than just take it. Those that work with God's law to produce a natural seed. How many people now have to use IVF to be able to create a child? This has been a foolish narrative. So, I'm going to finish off with, we've got the demon of the day and the angel of the day. So it seems appropriate that we're going to finish off with these two energies, because this is the two, the yin and the yang, right? The matter and the antimatter. So let's first have a look, see what the angels have got to say. The matter. What do the angels get to say, please, for advice for the collective? From the angels, the light workers, the light angels. What have we got? Rahel. Rahel says, devote some time to your children, parents and grandparents. Share the energy of familial love. So, yes, it's productive, right? It produces a, I was going to say, congeal, like a conducive, like a put together, like creates more matter when families work together rather than against each other. A lot of families have been put up against each other, and this has been part of the narrative. This has actually been, what's the word? I'm going to say like a strategy to break up families. This is what's been in place. This has been a strategy. It's been a I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean, to divide and conquer, right? This has been something that's been going on across the world, not just in like large-scale communities, but right down to the micro community, down to the family unit. There's been this agenda to divide and conquer, right? People being put up against each other and stuff like that. So to congeal with family members and children and grandparents and whatnot, to pull together, congeal makes more matter, more unity, right? To congeal the family units, reproduce the productive family units. Kavakaya. Is there anyone you've offended? Reach out and try to rekindle the relationship. Because see, these if somebody's, you know, like, it's a part of the divide and conquer. If people have people they need to, apologize to, or, like rekindle a relationship, a friendship, a love, anybody, it is to congeal again, if you can. Some of us can't. Rekindle the relationship. So somebody has been told here to have a look at themselves. Have they offended somebody? And to reconsider a separation. Because it has been a narrative that's been promoted by dark energies. So, healthy, happy life lies ahead. Material prudence should be practiced today. So yes, no, not to overindulge in the material, right? It's like only taking what is necessary and reaping what one has sown. No more, no less, right? A happy life lies ahead if it is balanced, not taking more than you need, not being greedy, right? Material prudence, right? One more from the angels, please, Spirit. Nathaniel, how will people remember you? What have you created that will stand the test of time? So yeah, what do you want to be remembered for? Is it being a negative force or a positive force? Are you a creator or are you a destroyer? Take this seriously. Really think about that. What do you want to be remembered for? You want to be the creator or the destroyer? Okay, what do we got from the devils? The demon of the day, please, Spirit. This is the boon. Have I been showing you the cards? Connect with your ancestors and ask them for guidance. Wisdom and wealth await in equal abundance. So this is a reconnection, right? So this is the congealing, the pulling together of the ancestors. This is learning from history, learning from what has taken place and really understanding. And we can actually draw on our ancestors to help guide us because they can see things a whole lot more clearly than we can when we're on this earth, but they are in the other realm and they can see us more clearly and they can see the agenda. And this is also about connecting, reconnecting with the old ways, the harmonious ways, living harmoniously with what God created for us. This is recalibrating the ancestry, the past, recalibrating the history to be productive again. And remembering those past skills we get from our ancestors, we can pull that out of our DNA. We can remember what our ancestors knew, just the same as, like a puppy, like a sheepdog, right? He doesn't even have to be brought up with other sheepdogs to know how to be a sheepdog. They just are a sheepdog naturally. It's in the DNA because that's in their ancestry, it's in their lineage. It's the same as that. You can draw it from within yourself, right? Within your DNA, you can draw on the knowledge of your ancestors. What else we got from the demons? Zapula. Focus your efforts on arts and crafts. What do you enjoy creating with your hands? See? Creating, being creative, being the creator, co-creating with God, right? Using the tools and resources that God gave us in our immediate place. What is around you? What are the resources around you that you can use to create a product? Whether that is something that you can eat or just something that you can use or even just something you can admire. Or somebody else can because you can trade it, right? That's the idea of being creative. You can trade your creativity to be self-reliant and sovereign. Cameo. Be mindful of arguments and disputes. it can feel good to win, but not at the cost of a relationship. See, because this comes back to dividing and conquering, right? Being very aware of, like if you've been somebody who's been out there and been destructive, you're in the dark matter, because that's part of the divide and conquer rather than coming together to create. It's a divide and separation into antimatter. When one causes chaos, it causes a divide of people, right? So they can't be creative together, right? One more, please. One more from the demons. So these are the demonic energies that are telling us. These are of the antimatter, but they're telling us this. Paimon. Doubts will be eliminated, replaced by knowledge and the crown of wisdom. Pay attention to your visions and thoughts. Yeah, see? When we, so don't doubt your intuition. The knowledge that is coming to you through your crown is the knowledge coming from your DNA, from your lineage, from your ancestors. Pay attention to visions and thoughts. With your visions and your thoughts, we manifest, we produce. We can just ask our ancestors. We can ask God, right? God's the ultimate that created all, but He also created our ancestors that learned all this knowledge, and individual ancestors have individual pieces of knowledge that we can draw from, which is implanted in our DNA. It's just a matter of tapping into it, right? Tap into that knowledge of your ancestry to be creative. So to manifest anything, we have to first have a thought and a vision. So we can visualize. And so like going back to even Paleolithic times, when the ancestors would say draw on the cave walls what they wanted to manifest, and that would be the hunt, right? When they drew on the walls the animals that they wanted to catch to feed their communities in that day or week or whatever, they would paint them on the wall, and that was first the vision, is to capture the animal for the community to eat. So they would first paint it on the wall and then manifest that animal to come for them to be able to hunt and be successful in their hunt, because they would often paint themselves, killing the animal, whatever. But this is what the history of art is. It is magic, right? It is the manifestation. It's the creative force, which first is the thought to produce something. And it is to produce the meat to give to the family, was to hunt. So they would first draw, and this is why even like in the megalithic, they had the big buildings, and in the Egyptian paintings and on the walls, whatever was produced on those walls is what they were manifesting. And then it's come right down our lineage to the media. Now, what is the media producing to manifest? Like some people, they're talking about, I was talking about this today to somebody, Like, you know, how like the Simpsons, you know, they say that they're predicting before something happens. Well, think of it this way. Was it a prediction of something to happen in the future, or was it created to manifest an outcome? Was the Bible written to manifest an outcome? Is the Bible a manifestation of Armageddon, the ending? Is it a manifestation? The written word that God spoke into existence. So what comes from the mouth, the thought, the word, God spoke the world into existence. But first it was a thought. So we produce in the same way. We have a thought, we visualise it, we may draw it, we may paint it, we may sing about it. So when you're looking at Aboriginal song lines, it's what it is. It's a manifestation. To keep the planet in alignment with nature. So if you're manifesting a beautiful river with plenty of food and fish and fresh water to drink, that's what you manifest. If you know what I'm saying. If you produce and manifest destruction, that's what you're going to manifest. So, you know, I often question, you know, like Armageddon, is this God's will? Or was this someone else's? Could it have been Satan's part played in the Bible to create the nothingness? Because in my eyes I see God being the great producer, the creator. There's a story in the Bible about the destruction and how humanity has led itself to destruction through all the stories in the Bible to come to an ending because of the imbalance of negative and positive. Is it a manifestation, a manifesto written by man, men? Bits have been left out that are supposed to be there. Because of the manipulations and the infiltration of the dark energies. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with it. It's been a pretty full-on reading. It's something for you to ponder. Make a comment. It'd be interesting to see what your comments are. I thank you so much for being here and listening. If you've made it all the way through this reading, good on you. Please like, share and subscribe. And, thank you so much to those who have already liked, shared and subscribed in, and make comments in my videos, and also those donations are much, much appreciated. And I just want to give thanks and express my gratitude to all those that come and listen and watch and share and like and all that stuff. So I'll see you again in the next one. Bye-bye. Happy manifestations. Create a manifesto.